Hello, welcome back to Dice Anvil. Today is the fourth video of World Building Week. We're going over each of the world building nations right now. This is the setting that Trichomonas was made for, but you can still use the basic rule set for any kind of setting you want. But I'm going to go ahead and share what I've created and what will probably be with everything else as far as the rulebook goes once it's fully published. Today, we're talking about the Kingdom of Amelon. So your character is from Amelon, a very common European fantasy setting. You got castles, you got horses, you got knights, you got the marketplaces, but there are a couple twists that make it more interesting and dynamic, which we'll get into right now. Amelon is a kingdom that was discovered and founded by radical religious practitioners after discovering the silver moon, a massive floating orb of stone hovering 1,000 feet in the air. The original founders claimed that the silver moon was a gift from Takema, the goddess of creation and the embodiment of time. The capital and famous temple of Takema were built under the silver moon. The king and high priest work with equal power towards the development of Amelon. The kingdom strategically places fortresses to protect their beloved land and moon. Military force is constantly hunting for citizens that practice Janak to eradicate their harmful use of Takema's power. There's a lot to unpack there, but basically, out of other nations, they discovered this giant orbital structure made of stone that's just hovering above the ground, about 1,000 feet up. And they saw it as a supernatural sign from Takema, which if you remember from the first video of this week, go watch that other video if you're confused at any point. Takema is thought of normally a figure of speech that represents the universe and time itself, but the people of Amelon see her as a literal deity that has gifted him this silver moon. There's an interesting dynamic here between the government and the church. Mentioned in this description, they have equal power here. Also, interesting dynamic is their hatred towards people born with the ability to access Janak. You know how Trichomonas is called Trichomonas because you got the body, mind, and soul? There's a fourth aspect or part of yourself that can be unlocked. That is the ability to see and feel and experience the flow of energy that moves everywhere in the Trichomonas world. That ability to acknowledge and interact with that energy is called Janak, and it is frowned upon in the Kingdom of Amelon because people need to go to Takema for power. They need to go to her for guidance. They can't be using their own kind of witchcraft to try to get power. It's seen as a spit in the face to their goddess, and that's why the church has deemed them enemies of the kingdom. The thing about Amelon, though, is that flow is ever present around this kingdom. Maybe because of the silver moon, maybe because of the high population of people, but regardless, because of all that flow, Janak sensitive people are very common around here. Maybe 1 out of every 10 people will be born with an ability to acknowledge the flow, thus having that Janak ability. Most of these people are in hiding because they know if the government finds out, they'll be executed for it. Some of them flee from the city. Some of them practice in private and maybe will try to rebel against the kingdom. That is all up to the player and GM, but you have a lot to work with there. If you look at the map here, you got the capital city, which is called Silvestel, and you got right next to it is the Temple of Takema. Above it, that circle that's in the sky casting the shadow is the silver moon. So down south, we got Iron Haven, which is a fortress that protects Amelon from people that may be traveling across the Gulf. Up at the top, they got Bridge Lock, which stops people from traveling in if they mean trouble or anything like that. Protects the kingdom, basically. Let's go ahead and dive into what people that live here are like. First one we got up is Priest. Priests are well respected and powerful in Amelon. They share equal authority to the monarch. They call upon the one true goddess Takema for aid. This is everything that we've described in the past, but you can literally be a priest. Not a high priest, at least not to start off, but You can start as someone that believes and practices these values. You got 2 skills. You got worship and connection. And you got 2 abilities. You got the harmony ability, which is called blessing. Channel divine energy to heal a character 1d4 damage. The next ability you have is a passion ability, and it's Takima's Zealot. I'm gonna make a magic system video really soon, so hold tight. But basically, you have to do acts that serve or honor Takima, and it'll accumulate passion points as you go. At some point, you can use those passion points to have Takima do something for you in that moment. Moving on to the Knight. Knights of Amelon are men of honor that are raised to serve the king and the church of Takima. They typically value honor and loyalty. Knights are respected in society and expected to intervene with injustice in Amelon. They are trained and expected to eradicate threats to the kingdom. And you have a quote where they say often, "Silver moon guides your blade," which can be used throughout roleplay in different points, but that's basically the saying of a Knight of Amelon. Let's go ahead and dive into what they do. They got 2 skills, one in fortitude, one in intimidation. They start off with level 3 armor, which is a big deal. And they got 2 abilities, one in passion called the Heretic Killer. Add a D8 when attacking a target wielding Janak magic. I just now added this part because I just thought of it. I think it's kind of cool. You regain 1 passion if that target is killed. I decided to make it pretty powerful because it'll be pretty rare whenever you encounter an enemy that wields Janak magic. The second ability is a harmony ability, and it's called Takima's Judge. Being a judge is another aspect that I'm going to get into in the magic system video, so stay tuned for that. Takima's Judge may slow down time in an area for a few seconds, must maintain focus. So basically, Takima, being the goddess of time, has authority over that. And if you're a Knight of Amelon, you have been given a gift from Takima herself, which is the ability to slightly manipulate time. You can't slow down time and then start stabbing a person to death. You have to focus on that thing. Leave some comments down below if you think there's anything I should change or add to this Knight. Next up, we got the Tracker, which is unique to this culture, and you'll see why in a second. Trackers serve as detectives and use ceramite and their own wit to track down criminals and Janak users. They are paid well by the kingdom. In the early development phases of this game, I played a campaign with a couple friends, and one of them was a detective. I liked the way that character played so much, I decided to make it part of this specific culture of Amelon. They'll usually accompany a knight or a group of knights and help them track down Janak users or people that need to be brought to justice. Their skills are investigation and culture. They got 2 abilities. The first one is a harmony ability called Foresight. Foresee 2 different possibilities of the immediate future. So it's like you can do some little detective work to find out the 2 most probable possibilities of what could immediately happen. So you can kind of base your decisions off of what you foresee using your deductive reasoning. I love that. I love that a lot. It can be super useful, and it kind of keeps the GM on his feet a little bit, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The second ability is a passion ability called All Part of the Plan. You flash back to Tracker preparing for situation. Roll knowledge. This is an idea that is commonly used in Blades of the Dark. Excellent RPG if you haven't played it. Basically, if you're in a tight situation, you can use a passion point to say, oh, I've already planned ahead for this. You go ahead and roll for knowledge to see how effective you are, and you and the GM will describe how you've prepared for this moment. This means a tracker is extremely useful to have in a campaign, especially if it's some kind of mystery themed mission you're on, or maybe a heist that you're on right now. What if you want to be the prey instead of the predator? Well, my friend, then you can be a Janak user from Amelon. Many civilians of Amelon have Janak by blood or by learning how to access it. Despite this, Amelon continues to target them. Janak wielders from Amelon learn to lie and hide from a young age. Because of this, you can see that their 2 skills are deception and stealth. Their only ability is they start off with a level 3 Janak attribute. I should have made the order different, I think, in hindsight, but I'm gonna make a video explaining all the magic systems and how they work, not only narratively, but mechanically. But just know that if you're gonna be a character that wields Janak, and you're from Amelon, you start off with a level 3 version, which is better than all the other ones that start off with 1. The last background of the Amelon kingdom is the Mariner. Amelon receives much of its wealth through trade with a continent called Meridos. That's a whole different idea. We're talking about it's a whole nother continent that trades a lot with people. Mariners get paid for transporting goods and wealth across the Gulf of Amelon. The Mariner is definitely the most versatile background I've made so far. First of all, we got 2 skills. We got 1 in culture, 1 in nature. And the reason it's versatile is because we got a list of 4 different abilities. And you can choose 2 that you want to have for your character. We got the first one, which is Helmsman, which is you add a die to rolls relating to water vehicles and travel. If you're doing anything having to do with a ship or a boat or anything like that, you automatically get like your own personalized skill basically. The second ability is Swordsman Blitz. You can use a passion point to upgrade your slashing combat die. So what does that mean, upgrading your die? It means if you have a D6, you can use a passion point and make it into a D8. Or maybe you already have a D8, you use a passion point, turn it into a D10. You make it the die that's right above that. The Swordsman Blitz ends with combat or when Mariner is damaged. So it will go back to its original form if you're ever hit or when combat's over. You got Guide, which means you can speak every common language. Apuk's Zealot, which is passion. It's the same as any other Zealot abilities, except it's for Apuk, which if you remember from the first video of this week, again, go watch that if you haven't. We know that Apuk is the warden or god of water and chaos, or I guess you could say the god of storms. If you're a mariner and spend all your time in the water, it's very likely that culturally you'll have a respect or even a worship for this deity that is over the water and over storms. Your life is in your hands every time you try to go in a storm. It wouldn't hurt to be friends with their boss. You got a social perk, also very unique. You got chimes. Because of the intensity of the flow energy in this kingdom, if I am feeling an intense emotion of anger towards you and I'm yelling at you, you'll start to see energy around me, like the air around me start to pulsate red. Let's say I'm laughing and I'm the happiest I've felt in a long time. You might see colors of yellow start to flare out. Chimes are caused by the energy felt by emotions. You can use that for comedic effect at some points. You can use that for role play, or the GM might use it as a disadvantage at some points. It just adds an interesting aspect there. What if you want to be a character that doesn't quite fit any of these nations? What if you kind of want to be an outlier or something more unique? Well, tune in for tomorrow's video when I talk about outlanders, people that don't fit in one of these nations. Like always, please like and subscribe and leave any comments down below if you have any ideas for the Kingdom of Amelon or of this TTRPG that I'm developing, because we're all trying to make this together. Thank you guys so much. Y'all have a great day.